Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hall Virtual Happy Hour. My name is Kathryn Hall, and I thought I'd mix it up a little bit today, and I'm speaking to you from inside. So I hope you are doing okay during these really difficult times of COVID and all the changes that it is imposing on all of our lives. And I am glad that you joined, and I hope you will be able to have a little time this afternoon and we can be a bright spot in your day. And I have really lovely news to announce that we've had so much wonderful feedback on these broadcasts that we are going to continue this through July 1. And so every weekday afternoon between Baca Wines, Hall Wines, or Walt Wines, we've got you covered. So just check out one of our websites, and that will tell you whether we're on Instant Live or Facebook Live, and the times and all the other information. When you're online, you can also, by the way, order any of our wines. We have a 20% discount on the wines that we're going to be tasting today. And so I hope that's good, and I hope we can entice you to do it. We've also got free shipping, so we're just full of all sorts of opportunities here. We want you to have fun. So we have today a very fun and really very interesting program. I'm very excited to have our guest. His name is Nick Cave. He's an artist that I have long admired. I love his work. My husband Craig and I have collected his work. We were just really excited to have a piece of his that's at the winery that gets probably more attention than any other piece we have there. He works with textile. He comes to it naturally. His grandmother was a quilter. His aunt was a seamstress. He attended an art institute in Kansas City, working with fabrics, and he now teaches at the very important art school in Chicago, the Institute of Chicago. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for, I think, all of us to meet and have a fun conversation with somebody whose art generally goes before him, but now we get to see him in person. So, Nick Cave, come on.
Hey, Kathryn, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
So
staying inside.
What?
Staying inside and being creative.
Yeah, you are. So you're in your studio there?
I'm here in Chicago in my studio.
So how has life changed a lot for you?
Well, not really. The only thing that has changed is that my assistants are working from home.
Oh, well.
So therefore it's not as much noise in the studio, but, it allows me now to spread out even more over the entire building, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But, this way of working is very much part of my sort of daily sort of practice. It's a lot of time I'm in solitude. And that's very, very important to my sort of practice, to the way in which I need to think and process. So it really is very convenient, but I do miss my assistants.
I'm sure. Well, yeah. Okay, no assistants there, so nobody for you to drink with in person, but we can share a glass online. So how about I pour you a glass of our first wine of this afternoon?
Sounds great.
So this is our Knights Valley Sauvignon Blanc. You might recognize that label.
Love that label.
Which we're going to talk about in a minute, but let me first, let's have some sip of wine and we'll talk a little wine talk first. So Great. Here we go. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, got enough?
Got enough.
All righty. I got to pour myself a glass here. So this is a Sauvignon Blanc that comes from this vineyard in Knights Valley, which is at the very, very north end of Napa. It's actually to the north of Calistoga. It's an area that has a lot of volcanic soil. It's a really rugged place for a grape to grow, which is actually good for the grapes because it ends up getting very plump and juicy and wonderful. See those? That's a picture.
Wow, they look great.
Some of these, aren't they? Those are some really healthy grapes, and they make the wine from this particular vineyard. The wine tends to be very. It has lots of life and lots of acidity, and it's just sort of to me the palate is very much like a green apple. And then we use some oak on it, and I think that adds this really creamy quality to it. So let's try it and see what you think. Toast. Oh yeah. Oh, and also very nice lemon on the nose. I love this wine.
It really tastes great.
Isn't it nice? I mean, it's going to be so great in the summer, and it's hot. You get some hot days there in Chicago in the summer. This is for you.
I need a taste of this, Kathryn.
Yeah, you do. Well, let me see if I can make that happen. Not a problem here.
Lovely.
So anyway, this is we make a couple Sauvignon Blancs, but I really do think that the piece of has some oak on it. It just is a nice sort of sweetness. There's no sugar in this wine, but it adds this nice sweetness, and the creaminess is just, I think.
Yeah, there's a rustic kind of quality to it as well. Where is that coming from?
There is. I think so. Well, it's just that's that particular vineyard, which is just such an interesting vineyard that's very, very complex, and it's got a lot of nuances on it. So let's. I think we've got another picture of the a little bigger. No, you know what? That's a picture of it, but it does not do this piece justice. It's so exciting, and I've got to tell you, Nick. I don't know if you know this, but when my husband Craig and I, when we saw this piece for the first time, we just fell in love. I mean, it's truly eye candy. I hope that's an okay thing for me to describe it that way, but it's just so fabulous. And we didn't have any place that was big enough to put it up, but we bought it for each other as anniversary gift. And so then when we built the winery,
that's fabulous.
Yeah, we actually
it's interesting when you know that you bought it for each other for your anniversary, and to think about that piece and to know that that piece is made from garments that are all come from a place of celebration, special occasion. And, you know, recycling all of these memories and all of this history into this piece titled Garden Plot. And so, you know, for me, it's a piece that allows me to just sort of escape. When I sit in front of it, I am just no longer where I was, but just where I'm at in the moment, because it's so fantastic in terms of color, texture, and just scale itself.
It is totally, the scale is just so amazing. And I think to really do this piece justice, I think we should all take a look at it where it is actually hanging. So let's bring in our manager for the Visitors Center down in St. Helena, where this piece is located, Jeff Dreyfus. Jeff, come.
Oh my God, Jeff.
See, that's how big it is. See, everybody, I mean, Nick knows and I know, but isn't that amazing?
It's I love this label very much, but it does not do it justice. It's just, it totally encompasses this entire room. It's a wonderful piece.
It looks amazing on that wall.
It's amazing. So Jeff, talk about, this is the first piece of art that people see. Well, it's almost the first piece of art that people see when they come visit us there. But I think it would be fun to share some of the reactions that you get.
So it's hard to keep people's attention when they first walk into the winery because it is the first piece that they see. And it is so large and so welcoming and so detailed. And so the hardest part of my job some days is telling people not to touch it because it's so tactile as well. You just feel like you want to touch it. And we say thanks, but please, we want to maintain the art for everybody's enjoyment. But there's so many stories. It feels like just about every person who comes into the winery wants to take a picture in front of it. It becomes part of their Napa story of their visit to the winery. And we even have personal stories attached to it. For instance, this piece right here, one of our long-term wine club members swears that she wore that sweater in the 80s.
I love that. Oh my God, I'm sure she did.
It looks vaguely familiar to me too.
Well, that's the amazing thing is that there are these sort of, you can kind of, as you start to sort of, move around and sort of observe the piece, that you may find these sort of moments in time that brings you back to a place, as one mentioned that, they wore this piece or a piece similar. And so I like that the piece holds these sort of narratives and these sort of amazing stories, and that people really can find themselves invested in that experience, and that it's the first piece when you come into the winery that sort of sets the tone for your experience there.
Yes, and that's a very joyful tone.
It is. So, Jeff, I know when folks come, I know you love to talk about this piece. I'm just wondering, maybe there's some things that you want to ask Nick since we got him here.
Nick, I'm going to total fangirl on you right here because I'm such a fan of your work, and it's extraordinary. And I'll tell you, the first time I saw it, Craig was standing on the stairs looking at it, and he said, "What do you think, Jeff?" And I said, "It's amazing, and I can't wait to live with it for a while because it just keeps changing, or things I see about it change." And I think he feels very much that same way. But what was your inspiration for this piece?
Well, the inspiration was, it's a number of things. I think for me, it's sort of, creating a piece of this scale, created in this sort of circular sort of form, really sort of brings it to this sort of universal sort of excess. How do we, it speaks about the world at large. But at the same time, I was thinking about an ant's perspective in a garden looking up.
Wow.
And then you're looking up to this vast array of color, texture, pattern that is just completely magnified to a degree that is sort of remarkable. And so it really comes out of this place of this fantastical sort of mindset of creating something other, that I think it's important that we sort of have these moments and these times within our lives to contemplate, to set, and to be with something that transforms us into a different sort of way of existence.
Wow. I talk about your life so much for someone who only met you just now. So thank you for that.
That is so nice. So listen, Jeff, I'm thinking you might pour us a glass of our next wine.
One of our best.
All right, we love it.
The 2015 Mount Veeder, stunning wine. So please, Mrs. Hall, or let me pour Nick. Here you go.
Are you going to pour?
And then, and then for you, Mrs. Hall.
Actually, okay, good. I'll take it.
Nick, here's some more. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, Jeff,
nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, I know.
Nice meeting you as well.
Jeff, so Jeff, you got a bespoke tasting, I know, coming up. It's really cool that you could join. So I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Jeff.
Spread the word.
Good to see you. But so Jeff does, Jeff and several of our senior wine educators does these special curated tastings online. So if anybody wants to have one of these wine tastings in a private setting, in the sense that you can join online, you can bring other people of your friends in on Zoom, we can set that up. So you can talk to us about it online or give us a call and we'll be glad to talk to you. So Mr. Cave, let's talk about this wine here. Okay, so this is a Mount Veeder. This is a Cabernet, and as Jeff said, it is one of our favorites. Those of us at the winery, one of our favorite wines. So it comes from this region called Mount Veeder. It's in Napa Valley. It's on a hillside that is just very elevated. It's very high elevation, but it's also super, super, super steep. And so very hard for grapes to grow there. The soil is sedimentary, so it's very very, very old. So for me, when I drink this wine, I think about, Nick, you were talking about the history that comes into a piece of art. For me, when I drink this wine, I think about the fact that there's like old forests that are embedded in this soil that's at Mount Veeder. So I think this is reflected in the wine itself. So the berries that come off of a very sort of inclement, difficult site tend to be very small, which means the wines that they produce are full of flavor, very intense, and very dense. So that's what we should get off of this wine. So to you, sir.
Toast.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
It's really nice.
Isn't it nice?
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. It's so smooth.
So this is like this wine in 2015. This is a 2015, which is a fabulous year and very hard to find in Napa, but it is it produces these grapes that are really very lush. Let me show you a picture of these grapes. I think we've got one here. Yeah, see. So those berries are actually very small, and so that produces this really, really intense wine that comes up, and this sort of the density of flavor that you get in here, and I'm getting just lots of black fruit sort of on this, but also some nice minerality. I think we also have a picture of the vineyard itself, which is just beautiful, and that'll.
Oh my God, it's beautiful,
isn't it? It's I mean, Nick. So you talk about, you're in a studio and you're sort of alone and isolated. For us, when we're working in this vineyard, that's the same for us, really. And
oh yeah,
you
get a sort of sense of stillness and just the sort of beauty and the order of things. Yeah. In terms of just looking at the lines in the archer. I mean, it's so fabulous.
Thank you for that. I really think so much. A vineyard is so reflected in the wines itself, and so to me, so when I taste this wine, I'm thinking about the vineyard that it comes from, that it's difficult, and why these flavors are so intense, and why we get these sort of nice little almost pine quality in the fruit. So anyway, that's the wine, and it's art. We consider ourselves, we're a business, but making wine is also an art. And I thought, if you wouldn't mind, Nick, that it would be wonderful if you would talk a bit just about creating art. Share with us a little bit about your process. What is it that inspires you when you create a piece of art?
I think, what inspires me is the life in which we live in. That becomes the fuel for new ideas, new new ways of thinking. Also, I'm an artist with a civic responsibility. So for me, I have this amazing platform to really sort of speak, communicate, integrate community, doing outreach, folding in other people, making these magnificent performance works, collaborations. But it all stems from what is really going on in the world.
Mhm.
And I think as an artist, we have this amazing sort of platform to sort of talk about the difficult things at hand, and yet speak about optimism. How do we sort of work through the difficulties? And I find that for me, art has always been the vehicle to help sort of facilitate these ideas.
You do have a platform, and I think it's just beautiful that you recognize it and you have so much to say in your art. We actually have some pictures of your art that I think it would be wonderful to have you comment a bit about them. We have one piece that's actually in process that you have shared with us, and I'm hoping we can bring that on.
Oh my God! This is my first outdoor bronze sound suit.
Woo!
I've been trying to get to sound suits in bronze for about 4 years. And so here we are with the first piece. It's about 11 feet high, about 10 feet wide, and it's a seated figure that's covered in all of this sort of floral sort of pattern work that then sort of builds its way into this tree form. In the tree will be birds, flowers that will be accompanying the entire sculpture. I think you have a detail too.
Yes, let's see the next. We have some detail. Okay.
So the detail, you can really now see this sort of amazing sort of surface. Surface is so much part of my practice. I've always been interested in that as a development, as a way of sort of creating volume, pattern, color, texture. But, it's always been part of my vocabulary, and what's important when it becomes bronze is how do you transfer what is normally in color into a bronze. And I think you can do that through texture, as you see here, and the way this sort of floral pattern is moving up through the body.
I was thinking when you were showing the last piece, the last picture of this piece, that when I think of your sound suits, I just think of this wonderful swish as people and the color that as people are moving around and wearing those sound suits. And what you've done with this bronze is that in a way you're giving this movement, but it's through bronze, so it's static.
Yeah, it's very static. But I think the thing about, this particular bronze piece is that it allows us to imagine that motion. It allows us to imagine what would it be like if one were to wear this piece. But it's me sort of thinking about how do I get my work more accessible to the world at large. And I think, and for me, this is the way in which I can do it through a bronze sculpture. I can put it out into the world where people have greater access to my practice.
We have some more work, I think, of yours to share. Do we have another pictures to put up? Yeah. So now tell us about this.
Now, this is a series titled Arm Piece. Peace spelled P-E-A-C-E. And these are these memorial sort of burial wreaths that are all made from found metal sconces and toll that we sort of, which are like lamps or wall sconces that we cut up and then we weld back together, creating these amazing sort of burial wreaths. And again, really sort of being sympathetic and around what's going on currently in the world, and how do I sort of bring sort of peace and bring respect and sort of honoring the grief around Black Lives Matter, for example. And so these are these sort of offerings of sorts.
Wow. So when you talk about like using burial pieces, so that's pretty somber.
But it is somber, but at the same time, there is life here. There is this amazing breath of foliage that it looks as if I have sort of picked each one of these individual sort of pieces and put them together, creating this amazing breath of optimism. So it's we're in a world where we have to compromise. It's salt and it's salt and it's sugar and it's oil and water. And how do we compromise and find this sort of center, this sort of balance?
Oh my!
And then that is held by a bronze hand, which is my hand, that is holding the piece like this on the wall.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
We have a question from one of our viewers here who wants to know, what is the favorite piece of art that you've done, Nick?
Oh my God. The favorite is probably my bronze.
Really?
Right now. It's really about, how, for me, it's like I have these ideas and to be able to move them forward and to realize them is everything. And for me to know that this work can live out in the world and people have access to it is really the most important thing to me. Because we can't always get to a performance. We can't always get to a museum. But the fact that it can be in public space is really sort of, I can't ask for anything better.
So are there any other artists that inspire you? You talk about inspiration from other sources, but are there any particular artists?
I think artists that inspire me is like Kiefer. I would say Bill T. Jones, who's a dancer, choreographer, performance artist. But I look at everything. I look at everything from performance, video, dance, fashion, because I think all of it sort of is part of the way in which I think about my practice.
Oh, I love that. And really, why would it, when in my mind, I said I'm not an artist. I mean, when I'm thinking of artists, I'm thinking of someone else who uses techniques like you, but it really is, there's art and then there's the medium through which you express yourself, isn't there? I mean, it's like, and you use one medium and somebody else is going to use his body.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that, I'm more interested in, finding the means necessary to support the idea. So if I have to work, who's to say I'm not going to work in clay at some point? But if that's what I need to work, if that's the medium that I need to work in to support these ideas, then that's what I have to do. So, I'm an artist that's very much like a chameleon. I sort of navigate between all mediums, finding really what's going to best sort of support the vision, the idea, the message.
That's actually that's encouraging for someone like me who, and I think there is probably 3/4 of the world who thinks they can't draw anything and you never would do it, because I actually am like that. I do try to draw some things, but I would never share them with anybody. And I certainly would have not thought about ever trying to share that with you. But I think when you think about art as a matter of expressing what's inside of you, then it does change.
Yeah, it's very liberating. I'm fortunate to sort of have this as an outlet.
Yeah, it is.
And so, I'm grateful that I take it very serious. It is my life. It's my life's work. And so I'm fortunate to be here and to be able to bring it and share it with the world.
That's so wonderful. Listen, Nick, it has been such a joy to have you on today. And I am so grateful that you would come, that you share your life through your art with everyone who visits our winery in St. Helena. And now to have been able to hear you talk about your art so we can experience you through your voice. It's just been really, really, really special. I want to say thank you to you, and also thank you to everyone who has joined us today. We will be back. I'll be back next week, but tune in on Monday. We've got Jennifer, who's going to be with Baca on Monday, Instagram Live, and she'll be here with the Sweet Farm Goats, and which is going to be really fun. And so join her then. You can get the details online. And to all of you, and especially to you, wonderful Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Stay healthy. And to everybody, let's zip up.
Thanks, Kathryn. See you soon. Much love.